Hello, everybody. I'm thrilled to have Dr. Charlotte Gurule here, and we are going to dive into some amazing conversations here. But before I do an introduction with her, I would like to kind of remind everybody kind of what the program's about. And so the Define Yourself show is really a story with people come and tell us about transformation, whether that's been in business, career, or personal. And because we bring our whole selves to work, I think it's important to kind of look at all sides of what us as individuals have to face. And this is so that we can kind of learn about their journey and become inspired. It really defining yourself is kind of a call to action. We all have the ability to shape our values and what we stand for. And so the motto that I have for the Seidel method is don't find yourself, define yourself, and go beyond. It doesn't mean a label. It means define what's important to you. How do you get meaning? And so I'm very, very thrilled to invite our guest here. And so let me give you a little bit about her background. 25 years of experience as a learning strategist with proven track record as a solution architect. She's managed numerous training implementations with working with clients in higher education, mining, retail, publishing, technology, hospitality, aviation, and manufacturing, and the construction industry. Wow, I think we kind of covered everything there.
I've had quite the career.
She's implemented HRIS systems, accounting and learning management systems, project and change management areas. She brings skills, obviously, in change management. And she's really covered both the delivery and the design of training services and solutions. So thank you. Oh my goodness.
Why, Ellen? Well, you say it like that, I'm like, wow, that's a mouthful.
I know. It's when someone else introduces us that we start to think that's why I was so tired for the last X number of decades.
And raising the kids and, the pets and laundry and all that fun stuff that comes along with the household and a honey bunny. So, yeah.
You got it.
Wow.
So let's just dive in and have you maybe share a pivotal moment in your journey that kind of influenced your path and how you handled it.
Absolutely. I have two. So the first pivotal moment, in my early 20s, I was maybe 22, a young mom separated from my husband with a 2-year-old and a 1-year-old and a 5-year-old. And I was living in Indiana. And I was, waitressing at a steakhouse and I was waitressing at a breakfast shop, and I was probably making like $15 in tips. And I was also working for a grocery company in the bakery department as a cake decorator. So here I am, right, juggling all this happening. And I'm like, something's got to give. This is not sustainable. So my family lives in Arizona. So I picked up the phone. I'm talking to my brother-in-law at the time. And he says, hey, they're hiring at another grocery company here in Arizona. And I said, oh, you know what? I should probably apply for a cake decorator position. So I picked up, and back then you picked up the phone. There was an email, you actually picked up the phone, you called HR, you set up an interview. That's how you did it back in the early 90s. This is probably 91. I'm going to say 1991. And I picked up the phone. I had an interview with the bakery sales manager. He was the person that really changed the trajectory of my life, Kevin Burnell. And he hired me on the phone that day, right on the spot. And I'm like, okay, well, I got to move back to Arizona, which is not a problem. My mom, my sisters live here. So, coming back, I have a place to live, all of that. And I ended up leaving my husband for like the 5th time already in 5 years of marriage. And I came here and both of these grocery chains are still around and they're all across the country. And I ended up getting a $4 raise to move here, which is substantial, So I'm like, hey, I don't have to work those other 2 jobs. Maybe I can just work this one job, 40 hours a week. Great. Well, I didn't have a car. But that's not a problem. I'll get a car. It broke down all the time, but I still made it to work. And that that first day, I'm going to say it was like early spring, February. That gentleman, Kevin, came in and he said, hey, do you want to travel and open up stores? We're expanding in this geographical area, and I need cake decorators trained. And I was like, well, I've never done that before, but I'm sure I can figure it out, you know? And so I accepted the position and I started traveling around and meeting the cake decorators. I ended up started hiring the cake decorators and then training them before. And I did about 23 stores. And this was now I'm fast forwarding, 5 years into it. I became a sales manager, et cetera, et cetera. But that person gave me an opportunity that changed my life. Just like that. So that's the first one. Any questions on that? That was a pivotal moment for me. I was able to actually just work one job.
No, I'm riveted. What's the second one?
So the second one just happened last summer or last spring. I was sitting in Austin, Texas, in a car with a colleague. And the colleague is the driver. And this person gets out of the car, doesn't turn the engine off, leaves the car on, and proceeds to put gas into the car. And I'm thinking, and I say, hey, why aren't you turning the car off? This is like super dangerous. It could explode. And this person goes, well, I'm not in the car. And I was like, oh, talk about a moment. So I got out of the car. I walked across the parking lot into like a good 100 yards, or not 100 yards. I'm going to say a good 25 to 50 yards away. Because what if the car did explode? I was like, this is serious. So I walk over there. I check my emails and all that. The person comes back. They get into the car. I proceed to come back. I get into the car. And then we went to the airport. And as I'm driving to the airport and I'm getting on the plane, I'm doing all this. I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to sit with this person we've been traveling together maybe 3 years already. This wasn't our first time traveling together. But I realized that I was being bullied. I was being not even bullied. That's not even the word for it. I was
put in danger.
Put in danger.
Yeah.
I was being put in danger. And I told my manager, and then this person and I ended up having a big blowout on another trip. I told my manager, I'm not traveling with this person anymore. They degrade me. They degrade women. And I'm not doing it. And so what I had thought my manager was going to do was have my back, and that was not the case. It was, let's just sweep this under the rug. You don't have to travel together anymore. You work your projects, they'll work their projects. It's fine. And so that started the whole, what am I really doing here? It's not about, you can have the golden handcuff sort of thing happening, but not if you're happy, not if you're not happy, not if you're not being treated with respect and honored and you're being degraded. The conversations that happened were very bad in the group, conversations about things that are inappropriate. I mean, I'm not even gonna say it on air. I'll tell you later air, Ellen. And I just said, you know what? This is not the kind of lifestyle I want to live. These are not the kind of conversations I think are fine having with a colleague. So I was put in a position. So two pivotal moments, right? A moment of, hey, here you go. And another pivotal moment is like, it's actually the opposite direction. Like, now what are you going to do? Mm-hmm. And so I left my job. They didn't want me there. I didn't want to be there. And that's a whole nother story for another episode, because that's like a big story, in my opinion. And then I started my own business, and here I am.
Wow. See, I had no idea. So I met you at the point when you were just at the cusp of starting the business, and wow, that's amazing. So before we go to what would be a good transition statement, because or transition to you starting your business, like what was, I mean, that seemed like the final straw, but you still had to get through. Well, I'll just speak for myself. Many of us who are doing our own businesses are like, can we do it? The whole, like, I'm not worthy, maybe you skipped it, that.
Oh, I did not. Of course not. No, this is my, hold on one second.
Can I really do this? Do I have the wherewithal and the resources?
So this is what I look at every day. It's right there.
You are worthy.
I look at it every single day. It sits right behind my laptop.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
And you know what? I think the thing that the pivotal moment was, I'm like, you know what? I can get another job. I can. I'm well qualified. I have the energy still in me, making, I'm sure, the same amount or more with different companies. And then I just said, I don't think it was me, that's my internal compass just said, it's time. You've been talking to yourself since you were a teenager, or not even talking to yourself. And my internal compass always knew I wanted to have my own business, but I didn't have the confidence to have it. And so it took, decades of working for other people for me to finally say, and you get those things in your inbox. Hey, you're qualified for such and such. And I'm like, I want to click on it. And I'm like, that's just going back to the way it was before.
You know what this reminds me of? Did I ever tell you about this? It turned out to be kind of an ironic, an irony alert. But when I was working in corporate and I kind of knew I was getting close to a big transition, I read this book, Necessary Endings by Dr. Cloud. Have you heard of it?
I have not.
Anyway, Dr. Cloud's written tons of books. I've only read this one. I really want to read some of his others.
Is it Claude or Cloud?
Cloud.
Okay.
And the funny thing is I wasn't finishing the book. It was 6 months. And it's called Necessary Endings. And I look at my own, I think about my thinking, I'm one of those weird people, like meta thinking, I don't know what to call it, and I'm like, this is funny, Ellen, why am I not finishing the book? And because I was going to have to face a big decision like you and go, okay, my heart is calling. I've been called into this profession, and I have to answer the call, kind of a thing. So it sounds like you're in a very similar situation.
And the call was really soft, very subtle. And I will tell you, meeting other people in my life, the call's louder now. And now the call, it's not even a call anymore. It's like, this is what you're supposed to be doing. I want to share my knowledge and all of that you said in the bio with more than just one company.
Right. I wonder if it's, I love how you say that, because it's like, it's subtle and then it becomes kind of louder and more, and then it becomes integrated at least for me, like, okay, I made the decision. It's like, I had to finish moving. That was quite a deal. But then once I was done moving, it was like, okay, this is it. This is my opportunity. And just the excitement, the sheer excitement.
I don't know if I'm excited about it.
Well,
I don't know if excitement's the word, Ellen.
Excitement, punctuated by terror, punctuated by.
Well, it's self-doubt.
It's the roller coaster, but
it's self-doubt.
But you said you wanted to share your gifts with more than one company, and you got to get excited about that, I would imagine.
I do. Yeah. I do want to do that. I do
want
to do that.
We kind of touched about this kind of around the edges, why start your own current business? But is there anything we haven't talked about related to that question?
Well, one thing I did realize in starting a business, or even I'm just going to say, I've always felt that I was a business within a business. So when I had my internal, I always felt anyone that, I worked in corporate America for all of my career up until last July. 2024 July. But I always felt that every single person that I worked with was my client. And every single person that asked a request of me personally. So not just I worked in the training development department, but they weren't asking the training development department when I was over their project, they were asking me personally how I would manage their project. And so I could have 7 different clients all internally, all wanting something different. And so that's how I approached my business. You may be asking for this, but you may need 3 other things. Because people say, oh, I need to be trained on X. But do you really need to be trained on X? Because you probably already know how to do X. Maybe you need something else. So let's talk about that. And that's how I would approach my internal clients. And so when in my current business, that's how I'm approaching the business that way. It's not just one thing. Yourself also, we both came from the same space. There's so many arms to talent and development that people just think, oh, you train people. Not really. Well, it's like one small little thing.
It's so funny. I don't know if I told you this story, but I actually went to my first talent development conference last November. And I'm sitting here and, hanging around you and some of my other colleagues from the group we met in. They were like, yes, Ellen, you're in talent development. I'm like, but I have a supply chain and IT background. Yes, you're in talent development. Oh, I created this Menti ring program at Costco, and 5 years later and 200 people. Yes, Ellen, you're in talent development. So I'm sitting here and I'm listening to this person talk about how talent development professionals are not note takers. They don't just take these solutions. And I'm thinking, this sounds like IT. Because when you do, and I was a business analyst, so the first thing business analysts or product owners are doing is they're doing the same thing as business owners, like, what's your pain points? Tell me the holistic picture. Don't just jump and tell me the solution you've already figured out. Because until I understand the challenges and your goals and how you measure success, we can't be partners. So that was super eye-opening because I had no idea that was 100% transferable, background for the context of what we're doing. So
absolutely.
Does that sound familiar to you?
Yes, absolutely. And the thing is that I will say my last leader is a note taker. And so when I go back to, hey, these are the things that I expect from my immediate supervisor, that's not who they are. And my experience, and I have been around the block a little bit, not a lot, I'm just gonna say in my experience of working with different organizations, the people that are in charge of that organizations prefer a note taker in the L&D space. Because then they can tell L&D what to do. And so therefore, if you are someone who's looking at more from a business analyst lens, not just, okay, tell me what you want and I'll go deliver it, it causes friction or it causes mass change. Because L&D is the department that everybody touches for their growth.
Yeah.
And I've seen it both ways. Personally.
That's so profound. You know what strikes me? It's kind of like, and I've been accused of being an intrapreneur. I gladly accept. I say that kind of in a funny way with accused. But I think that you're kind of cut from the same cloth. It's like, we really want the meaningful results at the end of the day. And just because one person has this idea of a solution doesn't mean, they may be perfectly right, but let's explore it. Let's just take the time, because the meaningful change and the meaningful results will be when we have a holistic view of things. So
yeah,
that's amazing.
So, that's my
So tell me, how are you manifesting Her-Tastic journey?
This just came out of the blue. I believe you and I were at an event last November. It was a 4-day event, and I came back into town that Thursday evening, and I had an event on Friday that I did not want to go to because I was all evented out. But I had made a commitment to someone that I have in another cohort here that I would go. and it was a women's event. And I said to myself, what am I going to do at this event? Because I'd already been talking for 4 days. And I didn't know it. And I've never have been to anything here in my hometown, in my backyard. This is my first event in my backyard. And I said, oh, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to ask 5 women if I can interview them. I didn't have a podcast. I didn't have anything. I just said, I'm going to ask 5 women if they'll let me interview them once a month so that I could get to know them. And so I just walked up to strangers and I said, hey, my name is, Charlotte. I'm thinking, I don't even know what I said, but I had 5 women say, yes, you can interview me. And I said, okay. So I actually picked up my phone and I recorded them and their bio. And so so you know how you introduce yourself at a round robin? So I recorded each of these people, and then I sent their bio that I recorded back to them so that they could have it for themselves. And so I was able to now have their bio so I could remember who they are, what they do, and then send it back to them so that now they have a connection with me. And I don't know how I thought of that. I just thought of it on the fly right when I was there. It just came to me. And then I said, okay, now what am I going to do? I've got 5 women that said yes. They will have an interview with me. And I said, all right. And then I said January, February, March, I got the months together. And I said, you know what? And then the January person, we started talking and through December, figuring it all out. And then I said, you know what? I'm going to call it Her-Tastic Journey. And that was it. And that's how it happened. And so I've had my January person, and then I've had my February person, and I do believe you're going to be coming on Her-Tastic Journey and talk about all the wonderful things in your journey. And so I'm still working, like I bookended it, and I'm going to, I sent it to the person in January. I haven't done February's yet with the bookends. And I realized with the January and the February person that when the February person and I met, the January person was very, however you want it to go. The February person's like, hey, don't record until this. And again, I don't know these people. They're complete strangers to me. So I said, okay, but when I was listening back, I had recorded the whole time on accident. When I was listening back to February, what she said at the beginning before she thought we were recording is really who she is. And so I want to send that to her and say, hey, would you mind if I just did the whole thing? So that's how that happens. Like, awesome. Like you and I, like you didn't know my story. We've known each other a year, right?
I know. And I even tried to prep you and you're like, no, it has to be organic.
It does.
So this is organic. So what do you have a glimpse into like who you're trying to attract in terms of an audience for Her-Tastic Journey?
No, I don't. I think, I ask people if I see something, I'm like, you know what, your story is really interesting. You should share it. And I've been very blessed as a human that people just tell me their stories. I'll be like sitting at the nail salon and the person next to me will tell me all about their engagement ring and how they got it. And I'm like, oh, cool. Okay. So I must have that face.
We've all known you before. Wow. Well, this has been so fantastic. Maybe I'll ask one more round, kind of wrap up question. You could take this any way you want, but one of the things that I found is that, when we're kind of going through this journey, and maybe I shouldn't say we, you could disagree with me, but in many cases, I find myself actually thinking about Ellen in her early 20s and 30s when she was trying to figure out how to be a better manager and how to be a better leader and how to solve problem X and problem Y. And here I am, we won't tell you how many decades, but many decades later.
I get it.
And so I feel like I'm way more equipped to help the younger Ellen. And so if you had to give advice to the younger you and anyone kind of in that bucket now, what would that be?
Speak up more.
Maybe listen to that quiet voice that you said was maybe subtle in the beginning.
I think I needed to speak up more. I spoke up. I've made real change in a major organization, real change. But I didn't speak up for the things that I thought were wrong.
Mm.
Does that make sense? As an
You mean-
example, I could have been blown up in that car.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I mean, that's a true statement. That is a true statement.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really good. That's really good. I kind of, I'm looking at this through my own lens, so I probably am missing some of your perspective. But for me, that was like boundaries. I'm sure speaking up can go a lot of different directions, but for me, it was boundaries. And then once I learned boundaries, then I learned I could do advocacy. I could advocate for other people, but and it's this kind of weird situation. It seems maybe not like it connects, but by advocating for other people, I was serving myself because I wanted.
I absolutely advocated for other people.
Exactly.
That is what, I mean, that's what I'm saying. I advocated for other people. I can't even tell you how many people that I managed and mentored and coached who got promoted and moved and talking about how, this should be done and this should be done. I will tell you, the grocery store, when I was in my 20s in the grocery store, I convinced the entire corporation what they had been doing in the bakery department for all the decades that this company had been in business needed to change, that the baker no longer needed to be the manager, that the bakery hostess did. And they did it.
Wow.
So I was very much an advocate for what I thought was the right thing for the business, but I wasn't speaking up for myself.
Got it. No, I don't mean to put words in your mouth. I'm trying to.
No, you're not. I'm just clarifying when you say that.
That's fantastic. Yeah. And so, do you have any other examples that you can think of? And if not,
I want to share today. No,
okay.
I told you a lot of stuff today.
I know. I want more pearls of wisdom. That's why I do, among other reasons, why I do my podcast is I just love learning from people and getting their wisdom. So, well, let me let everybody know how they can find you and the.
And I do apologize. It's cmgstrategies.org. It's just .com. You know how you say .com out of our mouth so easily?
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay,
well, it's not your fault. I saw it. I had it on my website. I had it in it's cmgstrategies.org.
And so, feel free to reach out to Dr. Charlotte. This is the 5 reasons people contact her. And obviously you can see she's got a lot of wisdom to share. And I am just so thrilled that you were able to take some time with us today. So thank you very much. And I'm going to do my closing video out and we'll see you behind the scenes here.
Thanks, Ellen.